Hello everyone. Uh, I'm currently overseas, so I thought that I would do a kind of video summing up some of the stuff I've gotten since I am nearly at the end of my trip. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I actually still have another country to go to, but I thought it would be, I don't know, I just felt like it. So, and I'll also be kind of talking about some of the books that I've been reading while traveling. And yeah, so I think we'll start with those since it will be easier. So for the first neck of my trip, I was focusing mainly on this book, which is Virginia Woolf's last book, Between the Acts. This was quite a hard book, even though it was very short. It's if you don't know, it's Virginia Woolf's last book before she tragically committed suicide, and you can really kind of feel that heavily in these pages. The kind of plot is very loose and abstract, but it basically centers on a group of characters who all live in the same village, and they're getting ready for a big pageant, a big festival, and then the festival commences. And essentially, they're kind of the whole time they're kind of trying to be festive and cheerful and celebrating their community. It's an annual event, and yeah, but you know, throughout the book, there's this kind of underlying sense of dread that all the characters have, in which they're basically trying to put on a kind of facade of community and cheerfulness, but there's this kind of dread about basically the coming world war that's kind of on the horizon, always in the background. So it's about trying to be cheerful in a time where you know maybe your impending doom, where everything is gonna be turned upside down. And and that kind of defined Woolf's writing style, I think, where she kind of, you know, the modernist writing style is about what does kind of narrative structure become when we're dealing with these horrific, tragic events. It becomes a lot more free flowing because we don't have the words to kind of describe these emotions. And yeah, and so that's where you get this type of book, which is all about between the acts, right? So it's about kind of the moments that happen between the kind of normative things, between the words. What is really being said when we say something? What's the kind of thing beyond it or underneath it, essentially? And and yeah, it's a kind of very powerful book in that way. It's very hard in that way too. It's very sad when you finish it because you know that even before it came out, Woolf had drowned herself. And yeah, so in some ways it was quite hard to read for that reason, but I did like it a lot. It wasn't my favorite Woolf, but it wasn't my least favorite either. Very quite a hard book, I have to say. Guys, sorry about that. We're back. The next book is Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer. It's been the book that has kind of accompanied me throughout lots of the trip. It's one I'd wanted to read for a long time just because of how infamous it was. And it's one that I have some kind of, some kind of reflections on. I wanted to read it because I'm currently in France and this is set in Paris. It's kind of, if you don't know, it's about Miller kind of going around with this kind of deeply nihilistic and hedonistic attitude in which he's trying to kind of at once kind of reject art and artistry while at the same time, in my opinion, kind of looking for kind of meaning in this rejection and the artistic meaning. And when I first got this book, in Australia, I absolutely loved one of the first initial lines in it because I think it kind of perfectly projects what Miller is going to do in this book, which is kind of portray a kind of facade in a kind of shell that he uses to protect himself. And so I'll read some of it. I thought that I was an artist. I no longer think about it. I am. Everything that was literature has fallen from me. There are no more books to be written, thank God. This is not a book. This is libel, slander, defamation of character. This is not a book in the ordinary sense of the word, no. This is a prolonged insult, a gob of spit in the face of art, a kick in the pants to God, man, destiny, time, love, beauty, what you will. I am going to sing for you, a little off key perhaps, but I will sing. I will sing while you croak. I will dance over your dirty corpse. So this is kind of like a direct attack on the kind of writer and reader camaraderie and relationship, which I thought was really striking. But as I kind of, go through these pages, and most of it is about Miller kind of aimlessly wandering around Paris, trying to find some sort of reason why he's doing all of this stuff, it becomes more depressing. And I think it's a good practice of people will kind of say things to kind of try and shield themselves from the fact that inside they actually want the opposite. So he's saying, I don't want literature, I don't want to be an artist, I reject all that. Or no, he says, I am an artist, but he says, this isn't a book, I'm not a writer, I reject all of that. But I think he wants to be, and I think that's why he kind of tries to lean on the romance of Paris, And it gets him into very kind of nihilistic and saddening places, which I find to be quite interesting. It's very funny. His writing style is kind of incredible, where he can go from a very kind of dry routine of description into, in a moment's notice, into kind of this delicate like stream of words and poetry, which of like an internal description, which I find to be quite good. There's definitely parts in here that I don't like very much. There's some kind of vile misogyny and racism, but I think in some way it's pretty that kind of ugliness will kind of become apparent when you have no meaning in your life and you don't want to admit that you have no meaning. Okay, the next one I'll be very quick with. It's a Jacques Derrida book of essays, Writing Indifference. I read one of the most famous essay in here called Structure, Sign, and Play in the Discourse of Human Sciences. I love this essay. It's the clearest Derrida's ever been to me. I love how he talks about poetry in not just a kind of appreciative manner, but in a kind of in how it's important to his philosophy and to his kind of ontology, his way of being. And I think he even sees it as to kind of to be a poet is to be, right? If you make poetry, if you're able to play with words and with language, that means you're a being. I'm still thinking if I agree with that or not, but it's a fun definition. It's an interesting definition of being. I don't know if I would agree with it now that I think about it, but still, I like how he puts emphasis on play and poetry. I'm not sure why you're pulsing as such, but I don't actually mind it really. Anyway, so I could talk about that a lot more, but I kind of want to just move along. So the next books are ones that I've bought and that I haven't read, so I'll be thinking about them with complete ignorance. I've actually, now that I say that, I've read a little excerpt of the introduction of this because we had it in class, but I've never seen it in person. This is a wonderfully titled book called Testo Junkie. Paul B. Preciado is a thinker that I've become interested in as they've been introduced to me. I like how kind of intense all of their writing seems to be, especially for an academic writer. I love when academic writing doesn't pretend to be transcendent or from some sort of bird's eye position. I like when they get down and dirty with it. And yeah, I think there's lots of Susan Stryker, who's a great writer in herself. She writes lots about transgender theory, kind of loves it. Biopolitics is in the description. It's about sex and drugs and pornography. It's very contemporary, which I really think I'll enjoy. I'm trying to get to... So the first line in this is, "This book is not a memoir. This book is a testosterone-based voluntary intoxication protocol which concerns the body and effects of BP, a body essay." That sounds absolutely riveting to me. It's all about what constitutes a real man or woman in the 21st century through not only kind of queerness, but also our kind of relationship with drugs and the artificial. It's very good. Here it says it's a continuation of Foucault's The History of Sexuality. I don't really like nostalgic statements like that. I think this is more like its own thing, but obviously we have relationships, so very, very excited for this. The next thing I got is a lovely sketchbook. I got this in Portugal. I love this illustration. I love how angry she looks and grumpy. And I like how she is sitting, but with two chairs under her legs. And that's a drawing of Foucault that I did, a portrait, my first portrait. And that's some other works. But yeah, that's just a little sketchbook I got for myself. I feel like I'm mumbling a bit. The next one is, I just saw and I thought I would get it. It might be interesting. Spinoza's Ethics. Spinoza is someone that I kind of come to only in him haunting various conversations I have. His kind of ontology, that he tries to do here, his kind of system of being, is very important to lots of thinkers that I'm interested in. And I think he was a bit of a renegade, which I don't mind either. I'm sure I'll find things to agree with, but I mean, it's a pretty important text, and I'd like to be in the know-it-all, you know? And I'm fairly sure he basically, it says here, he kind of presents a fully cohesive philosophical system. I think that's like so kind of egotistical and amazing, and it's great. It's like world building, you know, and I like that. It's very pretty. I like that a lot. Yeah, and I don't know. I really don't know what to expect from this that much. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Who knows? The next one I've got, I'm very excited to read because I haven't actually read anything from her, is Monique Wittig's Across the Acheron. I didn't know this book, but I know Monique Wittig from reading Judith Butler. Wittig comes up a lot in Butler's discussion of kind of how the body was conceptualized in feminism, in French feminism in the 70s, in lots of her kind of lesbian body writing. And so Wittig's in lots of things. Butler kind of critiques her, but is also kind of in depth to her in a way, as any critic is. So I don't know, I've always wanted to kind of check her out, and this looked quite good to me. I like this quote on the front. I've never seen any of her work in person, so I kind of was like, I might as well get it. I think this is a lesbian kind of take on on Dante's Divine Comedy, which I think is great. I always like that when you kind of do that with No Mercy. I really like that. So it's meant to be satirical, it's meant to be kind of funny, but also searing. Yeah, I like lesbian feminist perspectives on Western canon stuff, and it's always good. It's always nice. So yeah. The next one is a book of essays by Patali. I'm sure people will know him for his stuff on eroticism. He's very big in the art world, in art criticism. He's a very big kind of essay writer. This is literary criticism, so it's kind of different essays on different writers. He has one on Emily Bronte, Baudelaire, Kafka, Marquis d'Assad, and yeah, and it's like kind of, I think it's thinking about like evilness and how does evilness work in literature, and all these kind of binary things like evil and good and the erotic and the sanitary. It's all very interesting, and I always like how they kind of pop in and wove together. And his kind of main statement of this book is that literature is not innocent, which I agree with, because many things aren't innocent. And yeah, I like how he thinks about literature as something where you have to do something. You have to do something active, in a kind of weirdly evil way. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. The next two are going to be gifts. This one is a French book in French. It's Manet, the painter Manet by Zola, the French writer. I got this from my grandma. She can speak and read some French. I hope this is not too ambitious for her, but we shall see. I like the cover. I don't know too much about either, but yeah, I thought this would be kind of nice. And I was in France, so why not? And this is, I'm quite happy with this. This is for my partner. So I hope she doesn't watch this before I get to her, but this is called Accidental Masterpieces, Moroccan Vernacular Photography. This is from a museum or gallery in Morocco, which is really cool, and it has basically a bunch of I won't be able to show you correctly, but I hope you will look it up and have a look. But lots of really nice, simple photography, nice bookmark as well, which I just thought was really, really cool. And funnily enough, I think I got there's like I just like how it's quite simple and they're all kind of squares, and yeah, I don't know, I just thought it was very pretty, so I got it. Yeah. Okay, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching.